your thoughts on the challenges and opportunities in 2020 and the next 5 or 10 years for an Australian lithium company operating internationally would be very interesting.
Well, as I mentioned, the main lithium production at the moment is either out of Western Australia in hard rock or out of Chile and Argentina for brines. I think over the next 10 years, we'll see different projects in other geographies also being developed. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what we're producing, they've got to be low cost, it's got to be high quality. And so there will be other projects coming online, but they will be key drivers. And then last of all, that sustainability footprint. If we go back 5 years ago, the Chinese were not key players in the lithium space, and now they are. And they had been key players in graphite, they had been key players in cobalt. There are other components that go into the lithium-ion battery. As we look forward, that ownership of supply by the Chinese will stay about the same. Depending on which forecast you're looking at, it'll be somewhere between 67 and 71% of the batteries will continue to come out of China. But what we've seen in the last 18 months is more and more batteries being developed in Europe. Because about 18 months ago, the Europeans went, here we go again. We're going to be dependent on China. So they spoke to Chinese battery makers and also Japanese and Korean battery makers, plus new ones. And so we see new companies like Northvolt being funded and developed in Sweden. We're seeing some of the main battery makers now appearing in Hungary, Poland. CATL has just signed a deal to be building a plant in Germany. I think we're going to see more and more of those battery plants. Why? Because part of it is where it comes from, but the second is it's always more cost effective in an ecosystem of producing vehicles of any kind, that all the bits and pieces are close to where they're finally used. So the initial supply can come from elsewhere, but once it's being made into batteries or cathodes and then going to cars and all the various bits and bobs, if they can be within a relatively small ecosystem, it just works a whole lot better. So I think we're going to see that. I'd say by the time 2030 comes along, you're going to see a complete sea change in electric vehicles in Europe, and Australian companies are going to be well positioned to provide the lithium for that, and probably also the nickel and the cobalt that goes into it as well. In the future, look, what Australia is very good at is producing raw products. It's not great at value adding, but I still think there's probably an opportunity. The US continues to support new technologies. The Koreans do the same, the Japanese do the same. So maybe there's an opportunity there in Australia as well.